Sometimes it's pretty funny to take a step back and to watch the left tear itself to pieces as they fight for power and over who can play the game better of, I'm more tolerant than you. This article from the Mary Sue kept popping up every time I opened up a new tab on MSN.com. Apparently J.K. Rowling is up to her transphobic nonsense once again. Oh my. As I always like to do, check into the author, this Kaylee Hale-Stern. You can see her LinkedIn here. So this is who's writing this. Sometimes it just helps to be able to put a face to, she's not, hair's not pink, okay. New York City metropolitan area tells you kind of what you need to know. McAllister College. I want to point out one thing. Writer, freelance, 14 years, October 2006 to present. And so you think, all right, freelance writing can't pay that well because people aren't really falling all over each other in competition for this kind of work. So she's not making much money. So who is bankrolling your lifestyle? Your husband, Hale-Stern? Your daddy? Trustafarian? And you can see, too, why she picks such insanely clickbaity, angry topics. Like, you got to get not votes, you got to get clicks. You got to get clicks. Oh, she was on the Tumblr Trust and Safety Commission. So these are the people that kick you off of social media. So I like to start with that. See who you're dealing with. See how they're trained. See where they're coming from. And it's funny to see just the rage, because J.K. Rowling has refused to accept the new definition of woman. She's a traditionalist. You might even say she's conserving the definition of women, although she's obviously, she's quite left. At least she seems to think she is. She wants the support of the cultural left, while maybe not thinking through her positions that well. Author J.K. Rowling has a net worth of over $1 billion. She's richer than the Queen of England. And yet, we're going to read her mind. She seems to derive the most pleasure these days as a transphobic troll on Twitter. Go figure. I consulted my seeing stone and I saw into her deepest motivations. A lot of mind reading. Women, more often than men, tend to think they can read minds. It's amusing. Rowling's transphobia, which has long been known to those of us who are, quote, very online. That's a new status. Basically people that are speaking a new language that 10 years ago would have been completely incomprehensible to everybody, that I'm sad to say I at least somewhat understand at this point in history. But she after her transphobic tweets were called out, she quintupled down. It kind of loses its effect after calling it doubling down. She quintupled, she centupled, she centupled, she octupled. Okay. So she's been repeating the same message over and over again, as I assume you have, Kayla. She wrote what amounted to an anti-trans manifesto. Well, was it that, or was it something else? What amounted to? The rhetoric and the parcel tongue weasel wording is astonishing. This is the most fluent article of pure wokeness I've ever seen. So, her anti-trans manifesto on her website that spanned several thousand words. There was considerable backlash. Was it just the very online? Was it? Because I don't think real people were bothered by this. And widespread media coverage, yeah, Mary Sue. But Rowling continues her transphobia unabated, so she's not responding to social pressure. Wouldn't that be a brave, strong woman that standing next to her beliefs? Maybe she'd rather be known for bigoted essays. Is that what it is? Can't you give people the benefit of the doubt for having good intentions? You notice the left never gives people the benefit of the doubt. On the right, I will assume, you want higher taxes for a bigger social safety net, but your intentions are good. I think that they are misguided. Let's talk. For the left, they automatically have to assume you are the worst human being. So, And I like how she frames it as a question, so it can be complete BS and yet still appear legitimate. Maybe she'd rather be known for bigoted essays than work on screenplays for projects like the Fantastic Beasts movie, after her last one was lambasted in the movie deemed nigh incomprehensible. Deemed by who? Who deemed it? You? Okay. Maybe she'd rather be known for this. I don't know. I can't read her mind. So frequent pleas from fans to show some sensitivity on the subject go unheard, as Rowling seems to see herself as a righteous crusader. What's wrong with righteous crusaders? They reconquered much of what was stolen from them by Islam. Of course, that's a massive point of poor education right there. Even after the stars of the Rowling movie, like Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Ivana Lynch, and Eddie Redmayne, denounced her comments and supported trans rights. Yeah, because they want to continue a career in acting in Hollywood. Look at what happened to Owen Benjamin when he said we shouldn't give Israeli hormones to children. Career over, right? Rowling still operates in a sphere where she's entirely in the right, kind of like you think you are, and persecuted for her, quote, beliefs. Why is beliefs in quotes? Are they her beliefs, or are they something else? Kind of a strange use for an English major. This billionaire with a following on Twitter of more than 14 million, there you have it, 14 million followers. 1 million is enough to scare them because it makes it impossible to astroturf their narratives if everyone doesn't go along with it. It's just like global warming. The science is settled. 9 out of 10 scientists kind of thing. 9 out of 10 dentists prefer Crest. They can't get their nonsense to function if there's an actual pushback. If people are like, no, we're not doing that. They have to be able to make it look like there's a consensus because they can't use reason and logic. So on the 15th, Rowling put a tweet by a trans man, had a few hundred followers on blast, and this is what sparked this whole controversy. The discussion started with a positive birth movement founder, author and journalist Millie Hill, who got mean responses on Instagram when she said that obstetric violence, poor treatment and abuse directed at people giving birth, usually in a medical context, is only violence against women, in response to someone else who wrote that obstetric violence affects trans men and non-binary people. Okay. I get lost, so is a trans man a woman that's a man, or is it a man that's a woman? I don't know. It's insane. Insane and hilarious. So the comments she quoted in her piece called her harmful, vile, and transphobic. A few said they would discourage others from buying her books. Oh no, this billionaire is going to get what? What'd she get, $1 a book? Oh boy. She also reiterated that patriarchy is a system that oppresses and damages women on the basis of their sex, which she stressed meant sex as in biological sex. As if trans women aren't oppressed by the patriarchy. So trans women were men that are a part of the patriarchy. And this is the problem, and this is what they're fighting over, is when you give in to the lie, you tell your first lie. Like the 9 Inch Nails song, Tell a Lie. You're attempting to manipulate the political outcomes, but then you want to stop the movement of the goalposts where it's most favorable for you. But there's always someone willing to come along that's even crazier than you are. And you're like, wait, no, I want to cling to the wage gap lie. And it's like, oh no, we're going way beyond that. And it's like, women don't make as much as a man. And because they do different jobs, and men die more at work, and a whole host of other reasons. The women I work with like to coordinate parties. The men I work with like to fight for management positions. And then they talk about how polite everyone is that's responding to her, that she's just so rude. She's so rude. She won't politely redefine her words because we'll call her a bigot homophobe, and then we'll politely ask her to not do it, and then we'll, carrot stick, and you'll see that it's never far enough. And J.K. Rowling said, judging by the tsunami of supported emails and letters I've received, if women learned anything from the response to my post, it wasn't that they should sit down and shut up. Solidarity to the brave and fabulous Millie Hill. I love your books, by the way. And I love this technique. It's kind of the gentle, it's almost a concern troll. You aren't incorrect that obstetric violence is sex-based, but how difficult is it to acknowledge that not everyone who is capable of giving birth identifies with the female or woman label? Okay, a fraction of 1% of people, we speak in broad generalities all the time. I don't have to acknowledge, most people got chickenpox as children and we don't need a chickenpox shot. Well, what about the fraction of 1% of kids that didn't get chickenpox? Come on. I love this. Beyond Rowling's continued grossness. Oh, she's gross. Gross. And torching of her legacy. Yeah, I'm sure you're on the right side of history there, Kayla. The most mind-boggling thing here is she views herself as a champion for women. No, the most mind-boggling thing is that you view yourself as a champion for women. Yet her constant victimhood in this regard is regressive. Yeah, you don't want anyone else to take that card away from you. Her supporters are not advocating for women, but bigotry and exclusion. Look, everything is exclusionary. The word community is exclusionary. You have a black community. Who does that exclude? Everybody that isn't black. You have a Jewish community. Who does that exclude? You have an inclusive community. Who does that exclude? Well, everyone that doesn't fit your definition of inclusive. Yes, exclusion is part of life. People are different. So I love the concern. Oh, just be polite. Can't you just be polite? Yeah, that's the first step, right? And what we're seeing here is it's a fight over the definition of words. It's the definist fallacy. When someone defines a concept in biased terms for the sake of an argument, the person making the argument hopes his or her audience will accept the provided definition, which makes the argument difficult to refute. It's the old, racism is simply power and privilege, so you got to have only white people can be racist. And if you accept racism as bad and only white people can be racist, therefore, whites are horrible human beings. If you can choose or define how these words get, what definitions are applied to these words, you basically win the argument by default. And that's what they're fighting over. And that's what's funny is because she has 14 million people that generally agree with her. And it's making it awfully hard to astroturf in your new definitions to continue your role of political victories. So, no champion who fancies themselves on the side of good gleefully hurts innocent parties. One might think that the author of Harry Potter would know that. Well, maybe she does know that, right? I mean, one of the things when you're making arguments is to assume maybe you're wrong. Play the devil's advocate with yourself. Look at what the other side is seeing and try to put yourself in those shoes. Try to make that case because that's how you arrive at truth. And it's funny to see, just for posterity, I wanted to show how, maybe our grandkids will laugh at how hilariously ridiculous these fights over languaging get. As social justice warriors, shark advocates want to rename violent attacks as interactions. So shark attack, we don't want to call it that because it reflects negatively on how people think about sharks. This is why there's a war over words. This is why political correctness exists. The woke knows no boundaries. Advocates in Australia are dedicating their time, energy, and resources to getting violent shark attacks rebranded as shark interactions. You know that TV show when animals attack? I don't know if animal interactions is going to be quite as popular, but they're afraid the very language, the very word attack, contributes to sharks being unfairly stigmatized as a deliberate killer. They're a dangerous animal, and people need to be aware of that. And you're in their environment. Shark attack is a lie, says Christopher Pepin Neff, a language researcher. Not a biologist, a University of Sydney language researcher, stating that a majority of what people call attacks are merely nips and minor injuries from smaller sharks. Yeah, okay. He argues attacks used to be called shark accidents before the term attack was dubbed in the 1930s. I had a shark accident. I don't know. Like, it never stops. Nathan Hart, an associate professor at Macquarie University, concluded, sharks don't have hands, so if they want to explore something, they mouth it. Very rarely are humans consumed by sharks. Okay, well, I feel better. I feel safer actually swimming in shark-infested waters. I feel a heck of a lot safer because we changed the words. It changes the reality, you see? Meanwhile, stay tuned on what's going to be our next obvious coverage of this story, advocates fighting for sharks to be called by whatever pronouns they prefer. Yeah, I'm sure. Ha ha ha. Like, it's become just such a parody. I am encouraged by the fact that MSN has brought back their comments. And interestingly, they don't seem to be so in line with the author's politics. It's why I think Yahoo, MSN, and all these other places got rid of their comment section in the first place. Because these are sounding awfully conservative. Only biological women, regardless of pronouns and how they identify, only women can give birth. That's not transphobic. That's not reality. Oh ho ho ho. Naughty you. Alternate headline, the Mary Sue is posting anti-science articles yet again. Yeah. Let's see. J.K. Rowling was a champion of the blah 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 community for years, but because she had the audacity to say that women menstruate, she gets banished, conform, or be cast out. And that's the thing with the left. You must 100% be on board with what they say, or you're cast out, exiled. You know, hey, maybe more people for common sense. Articles like this, why no one takes Mary Sue seriously. I know, but it is kind of fun, isn't it? I applaud J.K. Rowling for standing up for the truth, yes, because words do mean things. And if you have to use the definist fallacy in order to win your arguments aren't very strong. Zero bias in this story, none. Yeah, okay. So that's pretty much the story. It's funny to see them freak out over the 14 million Twitter following because they know as long as people like Rowling are standing up in at least this instance speaking truth, they're never going to be able to force their political, narratives into the mainstream. And in fact, very likely that this is an argument that they're going to eventually lose.